Hi, everybody. I'm Scott, and thanks for joining us again today for another episode of the In Medicine and On Medicine podcast. As always, this is Susan. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Susan is an Oriental medicine doctor, East Asian medical practitioner here in the Las Vegas, Nevada Valley. Her information comes across the screen every so often. If you'd like to get in touch with her with questions, make an appointment. Acupuncture is fabulous. Go get some acupuncture. There goes Leo. And you may also leave comments in the comments section below, and we'll do everything we can to get you answers and get back to you. Today, we are talking about the largest organ in the body. And no, not that one, boys. This is my grimace from Susan, my annual grimace from Susan from each episode. So the skin, the largest organ in the body. Susan, how does Chinese medicine look at skin? What's dermatology in Chinese medicine? What's the launching point here?
Well, it's pretty interesting because Chinese medicine and Western medicine are remarkably different, okay? And nowhere, I think, is that as clear as it is in the skin, how we view the skin and how the medical science of dermatology actually works in Chinese medicine. So now we've talked before about how there's different organ systems in the body, the lung system, the spleen system, the kidney system, the heart system, the liver system, and they're bigger than the concept in Western medicine. So if I say the liver in Western medicine, it's like your liver. But in Chinese medicine, it's more like an umbrella that covers a wide array of things. So like for the liver, it would include the eyes, and it would include the sense of sight, and it would include a part of our psychological self called the hun, which we discussed last time, I think.
Yep.
And it would include something called the sinews, which is like the tendons and the ligaments. It's a broader kind of concept. So the skin falls under the umbrella, of the lung system. Okay. So the lung system in Chinese medicine includes a bunch of different things. It includes the skin. It includes the pores in the skin. Okay. It includes a part of our psychological self called the Po, which we discussed. And the lung is like the organ that controls the qi, right? So we inhale, we bring in air into the body, which is called da qi, that descends. And it mixes with something called the gu qi, which is made from the food and drink that we ingest. And it's formed into a type of qi that we can use in the body, and then it's sort of distributed. Okay, so the lungs and the skin are considered the same organ because they are both open to the air. Okay. They're both exposed to the elements, okay? The lungs are called the tender organ because they are the highest organ in the body, the one closest to the top. And the organ that is most likely to be first invaded by an external pernicious influence or some type of exterior thing. Okay. So also an important pulse when we're dealing with skin issues is on the left, which is called the Sun pulse, which is the pulse that's closest to the wrist crease. Okay. And that corresponds to the lung system. And so that pulse also becomes pretty important when we're dealing with skin things. So,
am I wrong in asking that with patients, the skin problems are something that will get verbally communicated to you more than other things? Because like our skin bothers us when there's something wrong with it?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. Okay. One is people get sort of accustomed to things, and also, like for example, if they come in for back pain, for example, and they have sort of a chronic eczema problem, they may not even mention it because it's just not on their radar screen for that day. So usually, or not. Yeah, I would say usually skin problems are a function of some type of lung problem, but also skin problems can also be the expression of some type of internal problem that's expressing itself on the skin, right? So even though there are numerous Chinese herbal formulas for topical application on the skin, some of which are absolutely great. Often, what we at least start with is an internal herbal formula to address the underlying constitutional cause for what is manifesting in the skin.
Okay, so based on what you said, let's just take an average rash or something, it's something that's trying to get out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm putting cream on it or cortisone, I'm doing something to tamp it down. Now I'm preventing it from what's
Yes.
trying to get out to get out.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And so, so let's say you do have some sort of, something going on your skin. One of the things that's very important to us is where on the skin is it? Because we have these things called channels, right?
Mhm.
So, like, for example, this is a while ago, I went to a naturopath. I forget why, but she gave me sulfa,
Okay.
which I'd never taken before. And I went home and took some sulfa. And my husband at the time came in and said, "Whoa, what's that rash?" And I said, "What rash?" And he said, "The rash that you have all over." And I looked at myself and I was like, Where is it? And I looked in the mirror and the rash was here, went down the sides of my body,
Uh-huh.
which is a very specific area in Chinese medicine called the Shaoyang.
Okay.
And we talked about the Shaoyang
Yep.
before. The Shaoyang is neither interior nor exterior, right? It is an area where things get trapped. And so, looking at the way that the rash was distributed on my skin, it was obviously a Shaoyang pathogen, right? So, and it was red and it got itchy, so that means it was hot. And so, yeah, so it's like, woo, it turns out I'm allergic to sulfa. Who knew? So
what causes these skin problems? Like whether it's that or hives or like what's at the core cause of these things?
like if we look at Western medicine, like what causes skin problems? There can be hormone problems, like people who get acne
As teenagers, right?
or people who get acne as part of their menstrual cycle. They get acne outbreaks every month. Antibiotics can cause skin problems. Stress. I mean, loads of people have.
But a lot of times, I know you're not a Western doctor, but they use antibiotics like doxycycline for skin problems and for acne and whatnot.
Well, they're giving you what they've got.
Okay.
And so, I think I've talked about antibiotics. I mean, antibiotics are a flipping miracle. I mean, they're like a miracle drug that has been in part one of the reasons for their extreme overuse, because people think they're going to be a miracle for everything, and that's why now we have things like antibiotic resistant bacteria, right? Psychological problems can lead to skin disorders. Trauma, nutritional problems can lead to skin disorders. Endocrine problems, toxins. People can have inherited problems. My dad had eczema, my grandfather had eczema, I have eczema, kind of a thing. Now, in traditional China, wait, I'm not there yet. Wait. Hang on.
Okay.
So, just a minute. Okay, so that's like in Western medicine. So in Chinese medicine, it's the same pathogens that we see all the time: heat, cold, wind, damp,
Wind, heat,
dry, summer heat, or some combination of those. Okay, now typically, and again, this is typically, but it's not always, wind, heat, or wind, I should say, tends to affect the upper part of the body. That is not always the case. Okay, like I treated a patient a few months ago with restless leg syndrome, which is actually a wind problem in the lower body, right?
Okay.
But typically, wind, just like wind affects the tops of the trees, right? It affects the top of us. So in general, when people have a rash on the upper part of their body, or some type of skin problem, it tends to have a windy component. Whereas in the middle of the body, it tends to have some sort of chee component, because this is sort of like where our chee all is made and originates. And then if it tends to be in the lower part of the body, it tends to be something called damp heat. And why is that? Dampness is heavy. It sinks into the lower part of the body. And so we tend to look at dampness in the lower part of the body. But then we also look at, well, what does this skin rash look like? So so now your question was like, what kinds of things are treated, right? Like what
Right.
kind? Okay, so like
And also, I just want to emphasize the problem is not in the skin; it's just being expressed through the skin. Is that correct? Or are there problems that are specific
sometimes,
to the skin?
yeah.
Okay.
So it's sometimes you
Okay.
kind of can't rule anything out.
Gotcha.
So the first thing that we look at is the skin itself.
Okay.
And then the second thing we look at is, okay, well, is there some underlying organ problem that we're dealing with? And it's weird because it's not that far fetched from Western medicine, right? Because if any of the people listening to us have ever gone to an asthma doctor, usually they're called asthma and allergy doctors, right? And they deal with skin problems and they deal with lung problems at the same time. So
So
it's,
they've got the connection
they
there.
definitely
Kind of
do.
well.
Yeah,
Right,
they
right, right.
definitely do. So think you had mentioned like what things are when we're talking about skin problems, like what are we really talking about? Well, eczema, acne, psoriasis, dermatitis, fungal infections, rosacea, uh, um, urticaria, hives, herpes, all kinds of skin things. Okay. But what did I want to tell you? What did I want to tell you? Oh, so like herpes is a good example. So, herpes comes out in this very specific, it follows the nerve root. Okay. And so in the old days, they called it something called either snake toxin or cinnabar toxin, meaning it was toxic and it kind of looked like a snake, right? It followed the path of the nerve. Typically, herpes is considered fire toxin. It's really hot. It's really toxic. It's really painful. So it has to be like expelled and like cooled off.
You can kind of tell because like certain skin ailments, you feel the burning heat.
Exactly. So wind, cold, damp, dry, wind, summer heat, they all have kind of a look about them, right? So heat is kind of easy to figure out. It's hot and red, right? Feels hot, looks red. Heat and dampness, or damp heat mixed together. Excuse me. You've got the heat, it's red, it's hot, but it's damp. So maybe there are vesicles. Maybe there are, fluid-filled vesicles on the skin. So there's dampness you can actually see.
Okay.
Or maybe the skin itself is clammy and wet. Cold typically hurts, but not always. But a cold kind of pathogen in the skin would not be red and would not be hot, but the patient might be sensitive to cold. The lesions might be more purple or pale. Windy problems typically affect the upper part of the body, but they can also move around. Like, oh, I had a rash on my elbow, and now it's on my knee, and now it's on my foot, and now it's on my shoulder, and now it's on my face. That's kind of a windy kind of issue.
And what does that mean if something's moving like that?
Well, in my medicine, it means it's windy.
Okay.
There's a windy component, right? So we have to expel.
So, and it's like the wind is moving the
moving
rash
it around.
from parts of the skin to other parts. Okay.
Yeah. So then there's, dermatitis, there's psoriasis. Psoriasis has a very specific look about it. It's got these silvery scales. Some people have psoriasis that it's an inherited disorder. So, so there's that.
But all these conditions that you're naming, Chinese medicine recognizes those conditions as those conditions. Yes, as opposed to it's not eczema, it's it's wind, heat, cold, this or whatever, organ this. But you actually do recognize and categorize the so-called Western condition that they call it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Okay,
because, there it is. And someone
Okay.
comes in and says, oh, hi, I have eczema. Okay. Or
Okay.
you look at something and you go, boy, this looks like psoriasis. And they go, yeah, it's I have psoriasis. Or so I had a patient come in a while back, and as she was leaving, it's one of those typical things, like after the appointment, she said, I really should have mentioned this rash I have on my hand. And I said, you have a rash on your hand? And she said, yeah. She said, I get it every summer.
Ooh.
And it's dermatitis. And I went, oh, because that's not dermatitis if you get it every summer.
But dermatitis is what? So we know what.
Well,
for
it's
those
an
of us that
inflammation
don't
of the
know.
skin.
Okay.
It can be for a bunch of different reasons. The most common one is like contact dermatitis,
Yep.
like if you put athletic tape on your arm and then you take the tape off and you've had a reaction to the tape, and so you've got a rash that's the shape of the tape that you put on your arm.
Okay.
And that's like kind of the most common form of dermatitis, but there's a bunch of different kinds. No, and I looked at the rash on her hand and I thought, okay, I've never seen this before in my life.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It was wet and it was sort of white and yellow. And I said, I've never seen this before.
ER
but
with you.
It's not dermatitis. Okay, that I know. You've got to get this looked at right away. And she did. And it was MRSA.
Oh.
And then I had to disinfect my entire office. A tough time. I mean, they tried to get rid of that dermatitis for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the next time I saw her, she had an enormous boil on her abdomen that was literally that big. And
Gross.
maybe that deep.
Oh, God.
It looked like a volcano
Ugh.
filled with pus. Yeah, it was really pretty amazing. And she was on antibiotics for months.
Yeah, we have to be. Yeah.
Months, yeah. But it all, it was all this weird rash that she got over and over that kind of cleared up. And then it turned out that it was actually something much worse. It's important, a Western diagnosis is always important. To know what the person is taking, what they've been prescribed is always important to know. And what I always ask them is it working? Is it working? What you've been prescribed. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Do you come across things where it's making it worse, what they've been prescribed?
I can't remember having a situation where it was made worse, but I have had situations over the years where it simply wasn't working. And it's kind of like, well, how much longer do you need to do this? It's clearly not working, people kind of get, and I think it's human nature. I think people just sort of get into a rhythm and they kind of.
Rashes and itching is agonizing,
Oh, it's terrible.
So you just want to you just want to keep slapping shit on whatever you have to slather on it and keep doing to get some relief. Skin irritation is really tough.
Bad. Yeah, it's really, really bad. So when someone comes in and they have some type of skin issue, like, who knows, alopecia or hives or whatever, like, we do a differential diagnosis as usual. So, we take a look at it. We look at, where did it come from? How did it start? What does it feel like? What does it look like? What part of the body is it on? And then we do the tongue and the pulse, and we look at, is there something going on with one of the internal organs that's the underlying constitutional problem that is making this problem manifest on the skin. So we look at that. Is it a chee problem? Is it a blood problem? Is there wind? Is there stagnation? Right? And all of those things are reflected in how the rash or whatever it is looks, and also the tongue and the pulse will tell us that as well.
What about treatment?
So typically we do acupuncture. There's a couple of kind of interesting little acupuncture things. There's a point, a friend of mine calls this the get off my lawn number, get off my lawn finger. So if you're standing up, standing straight with your arms at your sides, where this finger touches your thigh on the side, is a point whose really major use is itching.
Okay.
And I forget the name of it, but it has a name has the
what,
word insect in it.
You got to be standing up to do it.
No, you have to be standing up to do it. But it's where the get off my lawn finger touches the side of your thigh, and it's that point.
And you just press in there.
Yeah, so you can actually do acupressure. Yeah, but don't lean. Just stand up straight. Yeah, so right there. There you go. Yep, there you go.
On both sides?
Both sides, yeah. So that's a really good point for itching. There's a point approximately 2 inches up on your wrist right here, which is really good for wind, any kind of wind up here. And then there's another technique that I learned was called five tigers surrounding a sheep.
Ooh, okay.
I
Five
know.
tigers
Five
surrounding a
tigers
sheep.
surrounding a
Doesn't
sheep.
sound good for the sheep.
It's not good for the sheep. The sheep is the sheep has a big problem. Yeah, so five tigers surrounding a sheep is a technique that we use where we surround something with needles that we want to shrink. Like, for example, it's really good for lipomas, those fatty tumors. It's like amazing. Like, what I do when I have a
Wow.
patient with fatty tumors like that is I have a tape measure and I measure the fatty tumor every time they come in so that I can show them that, it went from 10 centimeters to 7 centimeters to 3 centimeters to
that's
1
pretty
centimeter
impressive.
to gone. Oh yeah, it's like super easy to get rid of those. But it shrinks everything. So that's a good one. And then there's another acupuncture technique called a turtle seeking its cave,
Yeah.
which is really good for skin lesions that are like hard and nodular, where you want to like go in there and like break it up from the inside out.
And so are these treatments where the relief is quote unquote immediate at the end, by the end of the treatment and everything, or it's a process, or
Well, it kind of
like,
depends. Usually, something like itching, something like that, we can usually really help that right away.
does
Ooh,
the how quickly or not it's come on matter? Is it like the
yes,
cold thing where if you get it, see you quickly, you can get rid of it quickly? Is there anything like that
yes. Like
kind
I
of?
once had a patient who had severe eczema, and she'd had it for 30 years. I mean, that's just simply not a quick fix. I mean, it just isn't. And it was probably, it's probably hereditary.
Right.
It was really, really severe. But she also had absolutely no interest in actually like making any, lifestyle changes or anything. So it's kind of like, kind of hard to work on something that somebody's had for 30 years. But yeah. So yes, you're right. The quicker something's come on, the faster we can get rid of it. So like when I had the Shaoyang pathogen from the sulfa, that probably disappeared within 24 hours because it came on fast. Get rid of it fast.
How bad is scratching for rashes?
Oh, it's bad, but it's so hard to
It's
stop.
unavoidable. So, but we
Yeah.
are making it worse or complicating
Oh
the
yeah.
treatment when we do that. Why? Just because
Yeah.
we're irritating it
We're
more?
irritating our skin
Okay.
and we're just making it worse. But again, and this is like my personal opinion, a lot of when something's itching, a lot of those topicals to
Itching,
me
just talking
tend to make
about.
it worse. It's almost like you have a pot of boiling water and then you put the lid on it.
Right.
It's like you've taken a lotion and put it on top of the
That's what I was saying
of the
earlier, right? So we're
heat.
tamping it down then.
And to me it just gets hotter or it comes out someplace else. So what we
Oh,
want to do,
that will happen. It will move and come out
move and
somewhere
come out
else.
someplace
Oh,
else.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so sometimes we want to leave it open so that it can be expressed and it can go. Right? We don't want to necessarily suppress it. We want to encourage it to leave.
Okay, well that's contradictory to Western medicine right there, which is mostly about covering it up and quote unquote salving it.
Yeah, and which is, I mean, not bad. I mean, if it works, okay, but again, for us, like if you take 100 people that have a diagnosis of dermatitis, 99 of them are going to have a different diagnosis and a different treatment plan. If you take those same 100 people with a diagnosis of dermatitis and they go to Western medicine, they're all going to get the same thing.
Right. Okay. What about if the lungs are connected to this? Also, what about lung issues? How do they play in, and
yeah.
asthma and allergies, and what's the connection with the skin and the lung on the lung? I won't call it disease, but lung ailment size.
Well, as I mentioned before, the even in Western medicine, asthma and allergy tend to go together. Yes, so a lot of times we see people that have lung symptoms like shortness of breath or cough. Will also have some type of skin problem, and people that have skin problems often have like shortness of breath or cough, something related to the lung, or the lung channel kind of comes down here, over here, and so sometimes we'll actually see something on the lung channel itself.
But disease can affect the lungs, and lung disease can affect the skin. Yes, in
Right,
general,
because technically we
they're the
think of them
same.
as
Okay.
being the same
So,
organ.
like, if
Yeah.
somebody has lung cancer or some other lung disease, are there going to be skin, quote unquote, side effects or
That I can't really
residuals?
speak to. I don't really know.
Okay.
Excuse me. I don't really know. But what I have seen is a lot of times people that have like what I would call lung qi deficiency or lung yin deficiency, like some type of deficiency in their lung, their skin is often very frail. You know, it it's not the healthiest skin in the world. It's kind of reflecting the deficiency that we're seeing in the lungs. So we strengthen the lungs like one great herb for strengthening the lungs is American ginseng. Okay, not the Korean stuff, not the Chinese stuff, the American stuff. White ginseng is a very good lung tonic.
Mostly comes from Wisconsin, if I recall.
I believe American
Mm.
ginseng it comes from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes from Wisconsin. And I remember being in Chicago and seeing. Oh no, that was ginkgo. Sorry, ginkgo. Wrong plant. Seeing ginkgo trees growing everywhere, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so we we want to know what the Western diagnosis is, but we don't like depend on that so much because what we want to know is okay. Well, how do we describe this in Chinese medicine? Like, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it damp? Is it dry? Is it windy? What is it? And then and then is there an underlying organ involved? Is it the lung? Is it the liver? Is it the spleen? Is it the kidney? Like, what is it? Where is the rash on the body? For example, sometimes people will get a rash that we would call a damp heat rash, and they'll get that rash in a place that's sort of a damp, kind of hot place on our body, right? Like in the groin or under the arms or something like that. So then we go, okay, well, we got to get rid of this dampness and this heat. So we have to get rid of the heat, and then we have to transform the damp, get rid of the damp. Um, and then is there stagnation? Is there chi stagnation? Is there which looks kind of purple sometimes on the skin, or is there blood stagnation, which looks kind of dark, a kind of a dark color on the skin? Is there dampness? Are there vesicles? Is there something oozing? Is there something wet? Um, is it windy? Does it move around? And what part of the body is it on?
What about how does this all relate to aging and elderly? And the skin changes, it becomes thinner, it becomes less elastic, it flakes more easily, it breaks more easily, it cracks more easily. So what's
Yeah, just some other wonderful thing to look forward to about
yeah?
aging, is you got to take better care of your
But what
skin.
about the
Um,
lung skin connection there with
well,
as life goes on?
as with everything, things get more challenging the older we get. Our skin protects us from everything and is exposed to kind of everything. And so, this is my personal opinion. Getting in the habit of taking really good care of your skin at an early age is a really good idea.
Okay, so along those same lines, every time I see you, as you're putting needles in my legs, I always get the question of, are you using moisturizer? So tell us about the importance of moisturizer that I'm not using enough of, and
Oh, you
how
mean when
that.
I give you
Yeah. When you
acupuncture
give me acupuncture, you always will always say to me, "Are you using moisturizer?"
and you always say no?
you always see it on my legs. So how important is that? What difference? Why? Other than it
Well,
looks good and it feels better.
well, do you want to take care of your skin or not?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, well, what are you waiting for?
That's what's called taking care of your skin.
And
Okay.
you also have a chronic lung condition.
Yeah.
So, your skin needs a hand. So, better late than never, better late start now.
So
Especially in this climate. This climate in the Mojave Desert is wickedly bad for the skin
so a chronic lung condition can affect your skin
and vice versa.
and vice versa. Okay.
Right. Right. So getting in the habit of taking care of your skin, the barrier that basically protects you from everything. I mean, don't you want a strong barrier to
Right.
protect you from everything?
Yep.
I mean, why not? You might as well.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was just talking to my sister, and she apparently bought me something that she wants me to try, and she said it was uh, recommended by a friend of hers, and she said this stuff is actually amazing, and it's made out of beef tallow and honey.
Oh,
And I thought, oh man, I bet this is really good for your skin. And so I'm really intrigued to try it. And also, I thought, well, if when I try it, if it turns out to be really good, I'm just going to make it, because after what you and I went through a whole period where we made really like massive amounts of soap, which was really interesting.
Yep.
We went through this whole episode where we made a ton of soap based on Chinese herbal formulas. And one thing that I learned making soap was that making soap is pretty fun, but also the additives that are allowed in the United States to be put into soap are really bad.
It's as horrifying as
It's
with
horrifying.
the food, as with food.
Yeah, it's horrifying. And so when we were making soap, excuse me, we used the European standard, not the American standard. The European standard is much higher. And it's really shocking when you see what the FDA says. Yeah, you can put that in your soap. It changes your DNA and causes cancer, but okay, And so it's pretty amazing. So making the soap was really, really interesting learning experience about the skin, but also how many people I gave that soap to who said, "Oh my God, my skin is so nice."
Next time we make that, we ought
We
to
should
film
actually
it and
do a
show
film
everybody
yeah,
how because it's Chinese herbal soap. It's great. That
right,
stuff.
it's great. And I mean, there's people who, make soap professionally, so I'm not going to say I'm making soap professionally, but wow. I mean, once you use soap that you make yourself, it's like kind of amazing.
Unbelievable. So.
Yeah, so I thought, and making like lotions and moisturizers and stuff like that is even easier than making soap. I mean, soap, you have to be pretty careful as far as temperature and stuff like that. And you have lye, and you have like a saponification, chemical reaction where you make moisturizers and stuff like that. You don't have that.
But like with food and what you put in your body, look at the ingredients and see what you're putting on your body, and maybe you might want to change that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, well, like when my sister was saying, you got to look at this stuff that's made out of beef tallow. And I thought, well, gosh, for making soap, I have a vendor that I used that I know I can get organic grass-fed beef tallow from. So, I mean, let's take a look at this and just see if we can make some ourselves.
Fascinating stuff. Okay. Lastly, is there anything we should not be doing with our skincare that is a general no-no?
Yes.
Okay. What is that or those?
There's so many things. So the bottom line is now I would say there is much better awareness about this now than there used to be. First of all, the sun is not your friend.
Right.
Okay. So, especially here in the Mojave Desert, you do not want the sun shining on your skin. You can get really severe damage to your skin in a very short amount of time. The other thing, especially from a Chinese perspective, is wind.
And before you go on, for young people who think they're invincible with the sun, that's when all the damage occurs, is when you're young. It doesn't show up till you get to be our age, but the damage is happening, back then.
Right. So if you take care of your skin when you're young, when you're old, you're going to have pretty nice skin. If you don't take care of your skin when you get old, you're going to look a lot older than your peers. From Chinese medicine perspective, you don't want your skin exposed to real cold, because cold is a pathogen. You don't want to be exposed to wind, because wind is
bad. Wind is bad.
Exactly. So you just want to keep your skin, you want to keep it clean. You want to keep it moisturized. You want to take care of it. And you want to take care of it every day, not just when you happen to think of it. And you also want to take care of it all over your body, and not say, oh, well, I'll just let my feet take care of themselves and I'll just take care of the rest of me, or whatever, because your skin covers your entire body and all of it needs your attention.
Does your skin want to be bathed every day or more than once a day, as some do?
I do not think so.
Okay.
Now, that's just my opinion.
Okay.
I think because we have the oils on our skin, and the natural oils that we have on our skin protect our skin. And so I think a lot of bathing might slough off a lot of those natural oils that we probably would like to cultivate those being on our skin.
So some of that may be knowing what you're bathing with, right? As I just said.
Yeah, and also the climate that you're in too. Right. So yeah, I think that people can make an error. I mean, obviously, people can make an error not bathing enough. Okay, we can probably imagine people like that, but also we can see people making an error, maybe bathing too much and drying out their skin too much too. So,
Okay, and the only thing we didn't touch on was do you use your herbal arsenal for skin issues?
oh my
And
goodness, there are a million really good herbal formulas for skin, topical formulas. For example, there's actually one that you can buy that's already made that I'm going to just, I mean, they're not a like sponsor or anything, but it's really good. It's this product called Yin Care. And Yin Care, you used to be able to get it on Amazon, but you can't anymore. You've got to go directly to Yin Care and get
okay,
it from them. And it's actually a traditional Chinese formula. I can't remember now what it is, but I have it written down. And it's really interesting. it's it's often used for vaginal problems like vaginal dryness or um, all kinds of things. But it's also can be used as a wash on all types of skin things. It's a very yin kind of fluid, and so it all depends on how much of a concentrate you use. So like if you have like dryness, like dry skin, and it has an applicator thing that is divided into 10 sections. So like if you get Yin Care and you just have like vaginal dryness or dryness on your skin and you don't need it to be very concentrated, you might just do 10 to 1,
right,
like,
right.
9 parts water, 1 part Yin Care, and use that. Whereas if you have something like a a vaginal like bacterial or infection or something like that, you might want to do 50-50 or something like that, make it stronger. But it's been around for a long, long time, and it's based on a traditional Chinese formula. It's a great skin formula. Um, and then there's another one. Actually, I make soap out of this one. Um, Cao Gao, Zi Cao Gao. It's also got a Korean name, which I can't remember, but Z-I, Cao, C-A-O, Gao. So Zi is purple, Cao is herb, and Gao is something other, something else. That is like a classic Chinese formula for all kinds of skin problems, and it really is great. It works on all kinds of things.
Here's the only other thing I can think of, and then I'll let you go. Is the skin more sensitive and vulnerable around the openings in the body, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, the anus?
Oh,
Is that skin
that
any tougher, any more delicate, any more prone to problems, less prone to problems, since those are all on
huh.
the edges of like orifices into the body?
That is a great question. I would say my gut feeling is yes.
Okay.
Just because of when I've seen people that have a skin lesion, a lot of the times it is around some type of orifice around the eye or around the mouth or around the nostrils or something like that. So yeah, I actually would say that that's probably
Interesting.
true. Yeah, that was
Well,
good. That was a good
okay.
question. Yeah.
I'll stop right there with the good question. There's a little bit on dermatology, skincare, the lungs, how it's all connected, and how traditional Chinese medicine views it. As always, this is Susan Wellman. She is an Oriental medicine doctor and East Asian medical practitioner here in the Las Vegas, Nevada Valley. She's doing a
I just was
inspection
thinking of skin.
on Marty's skin as we speak. Her information comes across
He
the
had a skin
screen
problem earlier.
every so often. That would be considered a skin problem, what he was having?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We'll save that for another episode.
Yeah.
Her
He's better
information
now.
her information comes across the screen every so often. If you'd like to get in touch with her with questions for an appointment, any other comments, you may also do so in the comments section below. Please like our podcast and subscribe to what we're doing so you get notified every week. I'm Scott. This is the In Medicine and On Medicine podcast. We will see you next time. Have a great day.
Bye.